On the day of our engagement, my boyfriend's childhood friend pushed me into the cake and then hid behind him, giggling. Jason indulgently protected her, saying, "Your sister-in-law is still here, behave yourself." His childhood friend then took his hand, interlocking their fingers. It's all to liven up the atmosphere. I've seen everyone play like this. Sister-in-law, you won't be mad at me, right? Jason completely ignored my disheveled state and carefully adjusted Wendy's skirt hem. Wendy just wanted to make you happy, don't disappoint her kindness. Everyone thought I would flip the table and cause a scene. Unexpectedly, I removed the diamond ring from my hand and placed it on Wendy's finger. Congratulations on your engagement, I'm leaving now. My engagement party was in disarray, and Wendy, with a saccharine voice, hid behind my boyfriend. I saw everyone was too reserved and did this to liven up the atmosphere. Sister-in-law won't be mad at me, right? By the end, Wendy's voice carried a hint of tears. Jason, quickly explain for me. Wendy appeared eager to apologize, yet her body instinctively pressed against Jason's arm, casting a triumphant glance at me. Sensing the touch on his hand, Jason's ears reddened noticeably. Observing the tearful Wendy, he sighed helplessly and affectionately rubbed her head. Your sister-in-law is still here, behave yourself. Mutual friends present witnessed this scene and looked at me with pity. Sister-in-law hasn't spoken, she must still be upset. Brother, go comfort her quickly. Wendy's tearful demeanor stirred the emotions of many men present. Foremost among them, rushing to her defense, was my boyfriend of 3 years. Jason only then realized I was still present. Seeing my cream-covered, disheveled state, he instinctively shielded Wendy behind him. Wendy has a childish nature, don't hold it against her. His close friends laughed and teased, paying me no regard. We often play like this with Wendy, we all dote on her. Sister-in-law, don't misunderstand, Wendy is just a child to us. A child? What kind of child is this? Clearly, my engagement party was ruined, yet my boyfriend protected the culprit and took the lead in blaming me. I rolled my eyes and sneered. I'm a child too, I'd like to invite her to play together. With that, I grabbed a large chunk of cream cake and walked toward her. Wendy's face paled with fright as she tearfully burrowed into Jason's arms. Jason, sister-in-law seems angry, I'm so scared. She said this, but I clearly saw the cunning in her eyes. Jason frowned and tightly shielded the woman in his arms. Lydia, what fault are you finding? She only wanted to liven up the mood and played a small joke on you, why can't you take it? Wendy knew we were getting engaged today, she woke up early to do her makeup, spending so much time, and you think you can just smear cream on her? If you dare touch her today, I'll have misjudged you. At these words, my heart turned utterly cold. What a laughable excuse she needs time to prepare, but I don't. I'm sorry, sister-in-law, it's my fault for being too excited today and not controlling my actions. I'll leave now, hoping I haven't ruined your mood. Jason, today is your and sister-in-law's joyous day, don't upset her. Listen to me, you must comfort her well, girls are easily soothed. Wendy spoke apologetic words, but I clearly saw the provocation in her eyes. Jason never heeded my words. Yet, he always took his childhood friend's words to heart. Even if displeased, under Wendy's gaze, he said to me, all right, don't overthink it. Though there was no explicit apology, this was the greatest concession he could offer. In an instant, I felt as if plunged into an icy abyss. In over 1,000 days with Jason, how many arguments had we had? Each time, I was the one to yield. I knew well that if I didn't apologize first, he would leave without hesitation. Yet now, a single behave from Wendy could effortlessly sway him. I surveyed the engagement party I had meticulously prepared, my gaze settling on Jason in his matching suit. Let's end it here. I'm truly exhausted. In the 7th month of dating Jason, I met the immature little sister he often mentioned. That day, we had planned a date after work, but when I arrived, Wendy was already sobbing beside Jason's seat, her sheer dress accentuating her graceful figure. Seeing me enter, Jason's expression stiffened momentarily before he stood to introduce her. Lydia, this is the sister I told you about. I sensed an odd atmosphere between them, though I couldn't pinpoint it. Later, a friend slip during a chat revealed that they were less siblings and more ambiguously entwined childhood companions. When I casually brought it up, he flushed and explained, swearing repeatedly he had no ulterior motives. You're overthinking it. That I can openly introduce her to you proves there's nothing between us. That day, she'd just been dumped, and I worried for her safety, so I invited her along. In the throes of early love, I lost all discernment. I naively agreed, she must be heartbroken, let's invite her out more often. Then, Jason hugged me tightly, saying he'd found a kind and understanding girl. It wasn't until later, when Wendy mentioned over a meal that someone was pursuing her, that I realized I had been a fool in this relationship from start to finish. During that period, Jason grew distant, often arguing with me. Yet, he remembered Wendy's casual remark, chauffeuring her daily and accompanying her before her menstrual cycle. When I confronted him, he frowned impatiently. Don't you know Wendy's been unwell these days? I'm just supporting her as a brother, what are you fussing about? But when I had a 39-degree fever and called him for help, he retorted, are you vying for attention? That's pathetic. Only then did I see that, in his eyes, I wasn't worth even one of Wendy's fingers. Wendy remained nestled in Jason's arms, unmoving. Watching him softly console her, I smiled silently. Friends around me, noticing my action, exclaimed, Lydia, why are you removing your engagement ring? Jason looked up at the sound, his gaze toward me tinged with anger. Everyone's watching, what are you up to now? Are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? Ignoring him, I stood and walked straight toward Wendy, seizing her hand. Sis, what are you doing? It hurts. But then, seeing my actions, her tone shifted from panic to delight. I removed the ring from my hand and slid it onto Wendy's finger. Though slightly large on me, it fit her perfectly. Congratulations on your engagement. I then turned, leaving everyone behind, and exited the engagement party door under Jason's furious glare. As the door nearly closed, I still heard Wendy's bird-like sobs. After all, Lydia is today's protagonist, it's understandable she's upset with Jason protecting me. Forget it, I'll apologize, otherwise, how can the party go on without her? Ignore her, you're my sister if I don't protect you, who will? Jason naturally rallied everyone. I'll have the waiters bring Wendy's favorite hot pot, without a certain someone domineering, let's satisfy Wendy's appetite today. The door closed, my grip on my skirt tightened, then abruptly relaxed. Jason had never cared for me. Thinking of that ill-fitting ring, I couldn't help but wonder, on the night he proposed, was he thinking of me or his beloved Wendy? The answer was obvious. This wasn't our first attempt to host friends for our engagement. The first time, Wendy insisted on celebrating her third birthday of the year, and Jason, citing family matters, left me flustered to face a crowd of relatives and friends alone. The second time, before the engagement party began, Wendy, in a bad mood, got drunk at home and coincidentally called Jason, who immediately drove to her place to stay with her. No one could reach him, and he didn't return that night. The third time, Wendy wore a bright red toasting dress and preemptively took Jason's arm, everyone laughed and toasted them, while I stood like a clown at the farthest table. Afterward, I was devastated. Yet Jason said, Wendy just wanted to feel what an engagement is like, what's the big deal? We can do it again another time. Wendy's repeated interference and Jason's constant indulgence eroded my expectations. I could only be grateful this engagement didn't waste much of my time. Perhaps I had foreseen it, this attempt, like the others, would fail. Indeed, the outcome matched my prediction precisely. Only after fully extricating myself from this relationship did I realize Jason's favoritism toward Wendy far exceeded normal friendship. Yet he always deemed himself blameless, harshly criticizing me from a moral high ground whenever I showed the slightest discontent. Wendy only knows me in this city, if I don't help her, how can she manage? She's my friend and family, but you'll be my wife, I'm clear on that. Besides, you know her, how can I bear to watch a young girl like her struggle so hard? His so-called compassion infuriated me to the point of laughter. He sent half his salary to Wendy's account monthly. Jason felt justified, leaving me to suppress my feelings and even question myself. How could I be so paranoid? Was I wrong? Yet this relationship, painstakingly nurtured, weathered repeated disappointments and heartaches, ultimately dissolving into nothing. I walked alone on the street, my careful attire now a focal point of other scrutiny. Reaching my building, a message suddenly popped up on my phone. Wendy sent a 10-second voice message. Amid a noisy backdrop, friends clapped and cheered. Wow, this kiss is so sweet. Don't be shy, kissing the cheek isn't a real kiss, kiss on the lips. It's not like you haven't before, why so reserved now, Jason? Can you do it? Amplified, I faintly heard Jason's irritated tone. Who says I can't? I'm just worried about riling up you single folks. The cheers then grew louder. Their actions were self-evident. A second later, a photo arrived. Jason, in a sharp suit amid the crowd's teasing, gently kissed Wendy's lips, his eyes brimming with tenderness that nearly spilled off the screen. Wendy's face lit up with delight, her lips curving as she drew closer to him, entwining intimately. Yet now, my heart felt as calm as still water. I replayed the voice message repeatedly, the raucous cheers growing more jarring in the silent hallway. Finally, I forwarded the photo. I exhaled deeply and turned off my phone. At that moment, I truly felt that not loving someone meant a heart free of ripples. Seeing him with another girl now, I even felt a liberating freedom. Instead of going upstairs, I called a moving company. Since I intended a complete farewell, I would harbor no regrets. The moving service was efficient and hassle-free, sparing me future disputes with Jason, my best option now. While awaiting their arrival, I reviewed the company's overseas assignment details. 6 months prior, my department manager had mentioned this opportunity. If you're willing, I'll request your dispatch from headquarters immediately. It's a rare chance, seize it. At the time, I hesitated greatly. First, long-distance relationships were torturous, especially internationally. Second, Jason's weak stomach required attentive care. But now, I had resolved my doubts. Men only hindered my career advancement. This time, I had to go abroad. I promptly completed the application and messaged my manager. Within 30 seconds, she called. It's fantastic you've come around. I look forward to you becoming $1 million designer. Her excitement made me smile despite myself. I must thank Manager Xia for her support these months. I sensed her genuine joy for me. After a brief exchange, she fully grasped my intent and wished me a bright future with a smile. Having arranged the move, I opted to stay at a hotel for the night. My small apartment, long unoccupied, would be too troublesome to clean. The movers were highly efficient, relocating most of my belongings in mere hours. The rest inessential items I could simply discard. With everything settled, I collapsed onto the comfortable hotel bed, feeling an unprecedented lightness. I used to fret over Jason's late nights out, a worry that persisted until his return. Thus, I often suffered sleep deprivation, affecting my well-being. Now, with it all over, I could finally rest well. Closing my eyes, I drifted into a haze, only to be jolted awake by my phone. Assuming an issue with my overseas plans, I answered quickly, unprepared for Jason's voice. Lydia, why aren't you back yet? Are you still upset about Wendy? Jason's tone mixed anger and reproach, yet I couldn't fathom his grievance. I'd relinquished the engagement to his childhood friend as he wished, moved out to end our life together, freeing him of my burden, yet he was angry again? Was it because I no longer waited with the lights on, or didn't offer him hangover soup? Irritated, I rolled over and cut him off. No, anything else? If not, I'm hanging up. I'd been sleeping soundly, only to be inexplicably bombarded with his questions. Stunned by my retort, Jason paused for seconds, speaking again only as I moved to hang up. His tone softened. Wendy knows she was wrong, she bought an apology gift, one you used to admire. My eyelids drooped heavily, I had no patience for his pointless words. Fine, talk later, I'm sleeping now. I thought the call would end there, but Jason's reaction flared. She's apologized. Why are you so stubborn? You've moved out, what's that supposed to mean? I was bewildered. Wasn't he the one making a fuss? Hadn't we settled it at the engagement party? I just want to sleep, I said, hanging up unceremoniously. On the other end, Jason glared at the disconnected call, slamming his phone down, cracking its screen. With no attachment to the place, he stormed out, seemingly to spite me. I knew he was upset. Usually, I'd be the one to placate him. But having chosen to end it all, it no longer concerned me. That night, I rested exceptionally well. After gearing up, I grabbed a simple breakfast nearby. Returning to the hotel, I passed my old neighborhood and saw Jason, who should have been at work, approaching me directly. Jason looked weary. You're back just in time. Wendy said she's hungry and wants seafood rice. I couldn't grasp his mindset. What did Wendy's hunger have to do with me? He was already out. Couldn't he buy it himself? Why seek me out? Did he expect me to cook for her? I walked forward, sparing him no glance. Jason sked and grabbed me. A night's passed, you should be over it. What are you still mad about? I smirked. I was naive before. You two act like siblings, so closeness is natural. Jason's expression faltered briefly. You really think that? I nodded, my tone steady. Yes, you're right. Wendy's alone here, and it's normal for you, as her brother, to help, or she'd be so lonely. Hearing this, Jason's demeanor softened. Since you understand, that's great. Move back soon. It's unbecoming for a married couple to live apart over a spat. I booked your favorite restaurant today. We haven't talked properly in ages. Let's dine tonight. His tone brimmed with anticipation, eyes fixed on me, hoping I'd react with the old delight. The more surprised I seemed, the more reassured he'd feel. But I merely glanced at the time. Sorry, I'm busy today. You and Wendy go. I resumed walking. My overseas paperwork wasn't done. I had to hurry, not waste time here. It was pointless. Instantly, Jason darted ahead to block me. What could you have to do? Too busy to eat? I told you ages ago to quit that job, but you wouldn't listen. I found it laughable. His anger stemmed solely from my refusal. Normally, a solo date would have me joyfully hugging him to show my happiness. But later, our twosome dates turned into threesomes. I've been swamped lately. You two go, have fun. Expressionless, I pushed past him, leaving him behind. Jason stood dazed, watching me recede, an inexplicable emptiness gnawing at him. I felt his gaze cling to me. It reminded me of how I once watched his retreating figure, only for Wendy to later join him. No matter my grievances, he never paused for me. Now, mirroring his indifference, I realized that not loving someone truly allowed me to move forward unburdened. That afternoon, back at the company, the sales department's junior colleague called me over. I then noticed the manta roses beside her, their subtle Morandi gray-purple hue strikingly elegant. Wow, who sent these? Not one of your little admirers, I hope. Keeping my distance, I eyed the large bouquet, teasing her. She burst out laughing. Your partner ordered these this morning. A romantic surprise. Not my admirer. Maybe a mix-up with names. I'm allergic to pollen and can't handle flowers. Wendy often sent manta roses to Jason's and my apartment. Reluctant to spoil her gesture, I'd wear a mask and take precautions, yet still get rashes. Eventually, I stopped tending to them, leaving them at the door to wither before tossing them out. Unexpectedly, Jason returned from work clutching the flowers and berated me. This is how you treat Wendy's kindness? I didn't know you were so duplicitous. Friendly with Wendy on the surface, yet intolerant of her flowers behind her back. I wanted to explain, but my throat choked up. Fortunately, Wendy stopped sending flowers after that. I suspected Jason might have spoken to her. Later, a text on Jason's phone revealed he'd become the sender. She sent flowers so often, and you not only didn't appreciate it but left them outside. She gave them, so I should reciprocate. Those 99 roses mean nothing else. It's you all reading into it. My thoughts refocused, and my smile faded. The sales junior moved the flowers away regretfully. Oh, I thought your boyfriend sent them, it must be a wrong address. True, how could a boyfriend not know his partner's allergic? I'll wait a bit to see if someone claims them, otherwise, I'll make dried flowers. I nodded and smiled. Exactly, I don't have a partner who forgets his girlfriend's preferences. Work was overwhelming that day, keeping me incessantly busy. Naturally, I missed Jason's text. Did you get the flowers? Like them? I'll pick you up for dinner tonight. At 8 p.m., I finally stepped outside for air, ordering takeout. Waiting by the road, a familiar black car honked nearby. I instantly recognized Jason's car. What was he doing here? Checking my muted messages, I saw his text from 3 hours ago. The window rolled down, revealing Jason's handsome face, with Wendy in the passenger seat waving. Frowning at my suit, he said, "Why so late off work? Get in, let's eat together." He hated me in formal work attire, claiming it made me look mature and stern, unlike a young girl. Yet today, he oddly didn't mention it. "Wendy, your sister-in-law's here, move to the back." Wendy's face darkened instantly. She usually sat up front to taunt me. Why the sudden shift? I raised an eyebrow, anticipating her reaction. "Jason, I meant to apologize to sister-in-law, but waiting so long gave me low blood sugar. I wasn't feeling well, and now it's worse. Can you take me to the hospital? It feels serious." Wendy clutched her stomach, her voice weakening as she slumped onto Jason's shoulder with a whimper, startling him into checking on her. His gaze returned to me, hesitant. "Lydia, this date's off for now, you see Wendy's unwell. Grab something to eat later, I'll explain next time." Pursing his lips, he settled Wendy and sped toward the hospital. I stepped back just in time. The racing car could have hurt me. Wendy's act was clumsy, yet only Jason indulged her every whim. 5 minutes later, I took my delivery and returned to the office without regret. I'd never intended to join them anyway. My overseas paperwork was nearly complete. Who cared where they went or what they did? My priority now was packing for abroad. A cleaning company had tidied my apartment, leaving it spotless. Free of irritants, my heart felt equally unburdened. I slept dreamlessly. The next morning, my phone was flooded with Jason's calls and texts. "Why haven't you moved back? My patience has limits. Why didn't you answer? Still mad? Haven't you noticed you've been odd lately? You used to cling to me, calling if I was late. Why not now? Don't you care anymore?" Jason's text shifted from accusations to caution. He'd sensed something. The loved one indeed acts fearlessly, once annoyed by my oversight, now by my neglect. He'd often snapped, demanding more private space. Now I'd given it enough for him and Wendy to date 8 times with detours, yet he was dissatisfied again. Jason grew clingy, sending gifts daily: necklaces, clothes, bags, all in Wendy's taste. He'd never noted my preferences, how could he know what I liked? Annoyed beyond endurance, I decided to clarify things when he invited me to a restaurant's private room. Entering, I saw the familiar figure still present. I glanced at Jason, speechless. Even at breakup's edge, your Wendy doesn't trust you? He pulled out my chair eagerly, in high spirits. "Baby, don't talk nonsense, we've been together so long, how could we split?" I stayed silent, but Wendy broke the ice. "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, my intrusions caused your fights. I know I was wrong. Can you not be mad at Jason? I brought you a gift today to apologize. I don't want you arguing over me." She pulled a small box from her bag, but my eyes were drawn to a property deed that fell to the floor. "What's this?" Jason moved to stop me, but Wendy stood to block him. The deed bore 2 names, Wendy and Jason. It was the house I'd suggested for our marital home, bought quietly, with Wendy's name added. A shocking thought struck me. "So, you two got married?" Adding a woman's name to a deed requires a marriage certificate. Wendy's smug look confirmed it. Staring at the proof, my emotions churned. Self-sufficient since childhood, I'd longed for a home with him. He knew that well. Engagement after engagement, thwarted by Wendy, and now they'd married, her name on the deed. Yet Jason brought Wendy to beg forgiveness. How absurd. Countless self-doubts culminated in this laughable revelation. They hid their ambiguity behind a sibling facade. I was just a pawn in their game. What had I been these years? The moment it fell, Jason panicked, shouting, "Lydia, don't look." Once, I might have obeyed. Now, I flipped through the deed noisily. Jason looked dazed, hands clutching his shirt, guilt overwhelming him. "Lydia, let me explain." Head bowed, I traced their names. "It seems your marriage is thriving, you're even willing to put her name on the house." As I spoke, laughter escaped me, tears welling up. "Then why keep bothering me lately?" So all our engagements, my years of effort, were a joke. I see now I'd been an utter fool. Sweat beaded on Jason's back as he interrupted. "I can explain, there's a reason. Wendy's pursuer is a creep, he stalked her often, so I drove her daily to protect her. Even then, he wouldn't relent, claiming he'd strike unless we married. We had no choice, how could I let Wendy be harmed? Once it blows over and you're back, I'll divorce Wendy, it won't take long. The house was just a gift since she has no home, don't overthink it." His self-deluding words sickened me. "We've been together so long, I'll marry you, who else would you be with? You know I'm responsible." Expressionless, I felt only disgust, no ripples left within. "Understood, I've got things to do, I'm leaving." I moved to stand, but Jason erupted, face flushed with inexplicable rage. "Why are you like this again? It's infuriating. Wendy's stalked by that creep, do you know how dangerous it is? What's with your attitude? Do you want her hurt before you're satisfied? How didn't I see you're so cruel, vicious, and selfish?" After such shocks, his words went in one ear and out the other, unworthy of heed. But Wendy lunged, clinging to my legs, sobbing. "I'm sorry, sister-in-law, it's my fault for causing friction again. Had I known it'd trouble you, I wouldn't have called Jason when that creep threatened me, then nothing would have happened." Wendy cried artfully, her prettier profile angled toward Jason. Her nose reddened with grievance, cheeks flushed pink, tears swirling before delicately falling. Seeing her frailty, Jason hastily lifted her, consoling her tenderly. "Why cry? It's not your fault, you've been strong. Leave the rest to me." Wendy hiccuped softly, crying harder. "Really? Wendy fears troubling brother, but I'm so scared." "Sorry, sister-in-law." Their back and forth bred an intimate air. Suddenly, Wendy grimaced, clutching her stomach in pain, her other hand gripping Jason's arm. "Jason, my stomach hurts so much." "Ouch, my baby." "Something's wrong with our baby, take me to the hospital quick." "My God, now a child?" 2 shocks in a day left me unsteady. Jason carefully scooped Wendy up and dashed out in panic. I clearly caught Wendy's sly glance. It was all another act. Nearing the door, Jason seemed to recall me in the room. He pursed his lips, anxiety evident, hesitating. "Go ahead," I cut in, and Jason's expression eased slightly. "Lydia, don't misunderstand, I'll explain about this child later." Watching them leave, the dropped deed in view, I smiled wryly. "Explanation? Let whoever cares listen." After that day, Jason vanished from my life. I seized the calm to finalize my overseas arrangements. Idly browsing Facebook, I found Wendy's posts unusually prolific, flooding my screen. Jason, unseen for days, dominated these updates. A candid-like photo sat center in the 9-grid layout. Wearing mismatched couples' jackets, they embraced and kissed by a clear lake. Perhaps snapped hastily, the end blurred. The caption stood out, "Baby, don't worry, Mom and Dad love each other so much." Wendy's stomach seemed fine, letting her frolic freely. Once, such intimate photos would have driven me to confront them fiercely across miles. Thankfully, it no longer concerned me. Marriage, pregnancy, honeymoon, I remained unmoved. Lately, I'd been busy with farewell gatherings, cherishing final moments with friends. Yet my last meal before leaving was disrupted. I just greeted friends when my apartment door was kicked open. Jason glared, as if wishing to tear me apart. Lydia, what did you say to that creep? Wendy suffered because of you. Do you know how hard pregnancy was for her? The child's gone, and it's your fault. The weight of those words demanded careful unpacking. It turned out that post-trip, Wendy was stalked again by the creep, who tracked her to her new address and pushed her downstairs, causing a miscarriage. Since the creep mentioned my name during their clash, Jason readily accused me of colluding with him. Meeting those once beloved eyes, I felt genuine regret for the first time. I wasn't one to regret, but now I rued knowing him. Oh, then call the police, I don't mind. Jason froze for a second or two. Lydia, don't think I won't. Our bond broke when you harmed Wendy. I snorted, my tone dripping with scorn. Who cares for this rotten bond? No evidence, yet you judge me? What right have you? Call the police or not. If not, I'll do it. If you're picking a fight, get out now. A colleague dining with me stood swiftly. Sir, trespassing is illegal. I texted the police 3 minutes ago. Leave immediately. Jason's face betrayed unease. He had no proof driven by anger, he'd come based on Wendy's account alone. No direct evidence linked me to incitement, but his trespass was witnessed by all. Right and wrong were clear. Fuming and breathless, Jason could do nothing and slunk away. My colleague spat, disdainful. A little bluff, and he fled guiltily. What trash. With friends' deliberate support, the meal remained pleasant. Just after seeing friends off, an unknown number called. Answering, I was met with Wendy's torrent of vulgarities. Lydia, you bitch, how dare you humiliate me? I stole Jason once, I'll do it again. Wait and see. Once Wendy exhausted her tirade, I'd recorded enough. I forwarded it to the group. Jason replied fast, delete it, Wendy's unstable now. Do you really want to ruin her? Blank-faced, I left the group and blocked them both. Let the scumbag and wretch stay entwined. But 2 days before my departure, Wendy grew restless. Seeing an AI-altered card, I trembled with rage. My face, dazed and suggestive, adorned it, beside lewd text listing my contact info and a price. I thought it a mere threat, but within a day, my details spread everywhere. Never tried an educated beauty. Can you visit me? So pretty, how many men have had you? Top-notch. How much to book? I'll make you love me. Even casual acquaintances formed a group, gossiping. If she's broke, no need for this disgusting. I lent her stuff before, who knows how filthy it was. Good thing I tossed it with my germophobia. Who'd guess the lofty class rep was so depraved? One go might be nice. I worked a normal day, yet countless labels stuck to me. Thankfully, some believed me. Colleagues comforted me, it's fine, we know you're not like that. In this info-driven age, AI face swaps are common, we support your choice. Warmth pierced my heart like sunlight. Bolstered by all, I reported it to the police. Soon, Wendy sat in the station, weeping pitifully. Wrong person. It wasn't me. Clear my name. Clear your name? The police, reviewing her phone, frowned deeper. Evidence is here. What are you pretending for? Wendy's phone lay on the table, its contents malicious AI face swapping, posting me on adult sites, spreading it across chats, exposing my info enough for days in jail. Most shocking was her link to the creep, her ex-boyfriend, a love-struck fool. Even after being dumped, he orbited her obsessively. Wendy promised him marriage after one last scheme. Yet, astonishingly, she truly fell for Jason. So Wendy cut ties with him. He begged her back, she refused. In their struggle, she fell, miscarrying. I ignored these vexing troubles, having boarded my flight abroad. Work there was busier than at home, coordinating, scheduling, handling tasks daily, often without a moment's rest. When I finally had a break, I learned Jason was arrested too, charged with seduction, reported by Wendy herself. She'd hoped he'd free her, not abandon her to flee. Furious, Wendy exposed him. Both landed in jail. I didn't dwell on it. For me, the present mattered most. I'd begun anew, unshackled by past. Even after experiencing such a failed relationship, I still moved towards the future with hope for love.